Welcome to another episode of The Alchemist Tells a Lie. We're going to talk about roasting today. It's both really simple and really hard. And it seems to be one of the big stumbling blocks that most people have, that and tempering. This is the Behmor 1600. It does a really great job roasting cocoa. It was originally a coffee roaster, and it will roast up to a pound of coffee. It'll roast 2 pounds of cocoa, 2.5 pounds of cocoa. You could bring it down to 1.5 pounds if you want to, and we'll talk about different reasons you may want to or not want to do that. I'm going to get a roast going just to show you how easy it is to get it going. What it amounts to is we've got 2 pounds of cocoa from Peru. The variety is Marignan. It's one of the beans I carry. I picked 2 pounds just for a nice even number. It's one of the increments we sell in. So it's just a matter of loading up the drum. Again, that's 2 pounds. You could easily come up to 2.5 pounds. You just want to make sure you don't overload the drum and that it can stir well. You come in, make sure it's well latched. You've got a peg in here, fits into the motor of the Behmor, and up onto a bracket over here. We close it up. This is really how simple the Behmor makes it. We push 1 for 1 pound. Again, it's a coffee roaster, so you have to set it to the maximum based on coffee. For us, it's 2 pounds. Always pick a pound. It's just that simple. Each of these buttons down here are profiles, P1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. They're different shapes of what's called a temperature profile, and the motion I'm making here is how the heat's applied. So whether it starts off hot and goes cool, goes hot again, whether it starts off cool and comes up quickly or gradually. The short of it is you can pick any of them for cocoa. They will all make a good chocolate at the end. You have to work really hard to roast poorly in the Behmor. The profiles just behave. So with that in mind, again, I picked 1. I'm going to leave it on the default setting, P1. What that's going to do is just a nice, consistent, even heat throughout. And press start. We're roasting cocoa. It's that simple. Now, before I get too much further along, the Behmor has a dead man switch at approximately 3/4 of the way in. What that means is if I'm not present, and that should never happen, but if I'm in the area, I want to be reminded that I need to come over here when it starts blinking, which is what it's going to do at 3/4 of the time in, and I need to press start. Otherwise, it's going to shut off. It's going to assume I walked away, and it's a safety feature to keep people from having a fire in the Behmor. Anyway, my timer's set. That'll go off and remind me that I should basically look at this because I'm paying attention to you and not paying attention to the roaster. Anyway, we're going to let that roast. Let's take a step backwards. Why do we have to roast? The first is it develops flavor. The beans are harvested from a pod. Here we go. Off camera. They're harvested from a pod. They're made into a large pile. They're fermented. They're dried. Long story short, they eventually come here. But they're raw at that point. You need to roast them to develop the chocolate characteristic. Raw beans actually kind of smell like acetic acid and some other volatile, sharp acids. They haven't developed their chocolate flavor. So the roasting helps do that. Just like raw meat and cooked meat. They taste totally differently. A lot of people want to know how to tell when the roast is finished. Human nature is, I guess, they want to see a difference. But if you look here, you can't really see anything. It has a light even. You can turn the light on. but they're tumbling, they're moving, you can't really see anything. One thing you're going to have to just get a grip on and accept is you have to roast by smell, in conjunction with knowing what temperature you're using, what profile you're using, and how long the roast has been going on. It's all accumulates into knowledge about how the roast is going. That said, again, people want to roast by visual, and it doesn't work too well. You know, here's a set of beans. In the raw state, they're slightly wrinkled. They're brown. You can see some of the creases in them. And actually, if I sit here and try, I can't crack them with my hand very easily, which will bring up another reason we're roasting. Again, it helps you pull the husk off. Once you are roasted, these groups here, the beans plump up a little bit, they smooth out, but they don't appreciably change in color, which is what a lot of people want to see. What color do I go to? You know, are darker beans, do I make dark chocolate with? Doesn't go that way at all. You know, if you look at the pair of these, the colors are virtually identical. It's a slight shape difference. But again, these right now, halfway through the roast, have probably plumped up. They're not an indicator of done, and they're going to stay plumped up. So again, we have to go back to aroma. As it roasts, you're going to notice different smells coming off. The first is going to be sort of a grassy smell. Eventually, you'll get some acids coming off that are kind of prickly to the nose. Those will eventually merge into what I like to call is a baked brownie smell. Everybody knows what baked brownies smell like. And then nearing the end, many beans will start to exhibit sort of an acridness that says, I'm done. You can push a little farther. Again, with the Behmor, you won't ruin the roast. But those are good hallmarks, and they're good for you to pay attention to know where you like it. With the roasted bean, they've plumped up. The husk has pulled away from the skin a little bit, and I can sit here and reasonably easily pull the husk off. Not that I'm going to recommend you hand peel cocoa beans. Take you hours. That's not approachable. But the whole point is, once we run it through whatever cracking mechanism you want, my preference is the Champion Juicer, it's going to separate really well. It's going to fall apart, and then when we blow air against it, the light husk is going to drift off. The other reason to roast has to do with making the beans safe. In the field where they're fermented and dried, they can be contaminated by E. coli, salmonella, and other bacteria. Mostly we want to cook that, get rid of that, make it a safe product. The roasting profiles do that. Pretty much anything that tastes good will have been appropriately roasted. Finally, the last reason is it helps separate the husk from the nib inside. You may be able to hear some small pops that are going on while these are nearing the end of the roast. We've actually had cut away, and we're nearing the end of the roast now. If I sit here and smell, we've got a slight aroma of chocolate now. We went through actually some aromas of acids coming off. Those will now be not in the chocolate. And we're coming down to about a minute here, and we're almost where we want to be for the roast. Here's the hard part with the internet. You can't smell what I'm smelling. I'm going to take these a little bit longer, and by that, for this particular roaster, I can hit the C button, and it brings it back up to 3 minutes. We could totally have let it run its course, an 18-minute roast, and this would have made a perfectly fine chocolate, possibly even a great chocolate. I'm sitting here with it, I'm smelling, and only you doing it and getting into it is going to let you know when to end the roast. And how that's going to happen is you aren't going to intimately know, oh, it's ready, it smells right. It's going to be, you've roasted this batch, you've made it into chocolate, and then you make your decision, did I roast it long enough? Do I need to roast it a little bit longer? Do I need to roast it not quite so much? And so it's an iterative process. There's no one smell for this. I've been roasting for 10 years. And for me, it's become second nature. It's hard to pass that along. You just have to get in and do it. It's like any cooking. You learn to saute, you learn to roast meats, you learn to cook certain dishes, and you just can't do it and hit it doing it the ground running. You just have to do it. That said, what I am just starting to get now from an aroma is this very slight acridness. We've been popping for a couple minutes, very lightly. That slight acridness is telling me we're just at the end of where we want to be. And it's a fine line. You have to judge it per bean. They all act differently, but it's a general, it's not that they're burning, but some of the more volatile acids are starting to come off again, or the secondary ones, I should say. With that, we have a minute left. And that's the other final thing worth mentioning. A lot of people want to compare cocoa to coffee, where 30 seconds can make a huge difference. In cocoa, it just isn't that way. I'm going to let this run out to a final minute. It's not going to over roast it. As I said, it's almost impossible to over roast in the Behmor. Likewise, I could have pulled it 2 minutes ago. It would have made a brighter chocolate possibly. This will maybe develop more of the chocolate notes, bring the acidity a little lower, which is to my preference. And that's the other final thing I'm going to give you. I can't tell you how to make the perfect chocolate. There isn't a perfect chocolate. It's a matter of what your tastes are. What's perfect to me isn't perfect to Tom. By the way, Tom is who's behind the camera. Say hi, Tom. Hi. Okay. The best I can do is teach you how to teach yourself. And pretty much all of it's going to be that way. So again, we're going to let that run out the last 12 seconds. For the Behmor, what it's going to do is go into a cooling mode. Those are going to cool for about 12 minutes. And then we're actually going to let them sit for actually about 6 hours to solidify, not that they're liquid, but they're soft with all the cocoa butter that's in them. It's going to let them set up and become hard again. I let them sit that long so that they crack really well, and we can winnow them, take that husk off, and then turn them into chocolate. A lot of people want to know, how do they choose what profile? And what I mean, again, by a profile is how the heat is applied to the beans. With the Behmor, you can really pick almost an infinite variety. You can hit it long and hard, slow and fast, just all the combinations. And each one's going to make a slightly different taste profile. And unfortunately, I can't give you the perfect one. I can't tell you roast on, I'm making this up, P2 for 14 minutes for this bean at 2 pounds for the perfect. It might be perfect for me, it might not be perfect for you. The best that I can tell you is some very broad guidelines. The lighter the roast, the more fruity a bean will be, if it has fruit. If it doesn't have fruit, you're probably going to get sour. The heavier the roast, the more the nutty flavor. If it has nut, otherwise you may burn off all the fruit if it's a fruit predominant bean. There's no one answer. What I can give you is hopefully the tools to evaluate your own decisions. So you're not going to hit it, you may not hit it at least, first off. What I always recommend is take a bean, put it on P1, roast it for 18 minutes, make the chocolate out of it. There's a profile. It's going to make good chocolate. Oh, and use 2 pounds of beans. It's going to make a good chocolate. After that, make a decision. Do you want it to roast longer? Then add 3 minutes to it. And taste it again. Do you like it better or worse? If you like it better, it was the way to go. And you at least now know what a longer roast tastes like. Do you want to see what it's going to be? You want it a little brighter? Take 2 minutes off, roast it to 16 minutes. Or be adventurous, go to 14 minutes. It's not going to ruin it, it's going to change it. And you're going to see a pattern. Those patterns are what you have to learn and develop. I routinely recommend you roast 2.5 pounds of cocoa. What I found was I give that because it's a good, safe amount. It is impossible, I will garner to say, to over roast 2.5 pounds in the Behmor. It may take the full time, but it's going to be a good tasting cocoa. My personal preference is actually for what I'm going to call a more aggressive roast. Since you can't actively control the heat you put in, or there's only a maximum heat the Behmor can give you, to give a bean profile more heat, more energy to make it hotter, you have to roast less beans. And so, to my taste, it's my preference. When I roast, I often do 2 pounds. I've actually very successfully and found a lot of people like taking it down to 1.5 pounds. What that means is usually it does need to be a slightly shorter profile. So where originally we had P1, the first profile, 18 minutes for 2, and here we go, to 2.5 pounds. If you drop it down to 1.5 pounds, it may be only a 12-minute roast, 14-minute roast, because you're applying the same amount of energy to a quarter less beans. I like how it develops the flavor better. It's a little more lively to my taste. And just, it's just that, it's personal preference. If that's too lively for you, you can go the other direction. You could put in the full 2.5 pounds, maybe 2.6 pounds even. You don't want to get much over that or it won't mix in the drum. And you can then pick, go to the other end of the spectrum. Pick P5. It is a cooler profile. Takes it more delicately. May take, I don't have the profiles memorized, but 24, 25, 26 minutes to roast that. And it's going to, rub off all of those really sharp edges, or some of the sharp edges, and give you a more mellow chocolate. See if that's to your liking and what mix it is. Only you can decide that. But that's kind of how to pick it. Pick one, change one variable the next time based on, if you have to guess. But otherwise, what direction do you think it wants to take? And take good notes. After that, follow the notes and change it as you experiment and pass it around to friends and see what they like. All right.